Kia ora, everybody. Welcome back to the Binance New Zealand Ask Me Anything series. Thanks for joining today. I'm Ben Rose, General Manager, and today I'm pleased to welcome Rupert Carlyon from Kiwisaver provider Koura, who incorporate crypto into some of their Kiwisaver funds, and we're gonna dig into that. So, welcome, Rupert.
Kia ora, everyone, and thanks for having me again, Ben. Great to be back.
So look, first things first, let's do a couple of introductions. Rupert, you've got a load of experience in the TradFi world and also starting to get involved in crypto more locally. So look, give us an intro into yourself and who Koura is, and I suppose what the inspiration was behind New Zealand's first Kiwisaver crypto fund.
Awesome. So me, Rupert Carlyon, I spent kind of 10, 15 years working for banks in kind of capital markets roles in New Zealand and London. Came back to New Zealand looking to do something a bit different. And kind of after many years of kind of wandering aimlessly, decided that helping people make better Kiwisaver decisions was the right answer for me. And so we set up Koura in about 4 years ago, or 4 years ago we made the decision. Took us a year to get our licenses and everything lined up. And so we've now been going for 3 years. Crypto was a really natural progression for us as a business because we're set up, we're a business that wants to treat people like adults. We want to give people the freedom and choice to make the right decisions for themselves, but we also want to make sure that we're giving people lots of help and assistance so that they make the right decisions as well. And so to me, I firmly disagree with the traditional finance approach of saying, hey, look, it's too risky, you shouldn't be doing it. No, it's not proven. We're all going to go and do it on our own personal accounts, but you're not smart enough, so therefore you shouldn't be doing it. My view is cryptocurrency, it's an asset class. It's something that might deliver great returns. It's a great place, and people want to do it. And if we're going to try and get people engaged in their Kiwisaver, getting people to kind of then you've got to allow them to take control. You've got to allow them to treat it like a normal investment decision. And so that was kind of why we did go into the crypto world. We launched the very first cryptocurrency fund. We did put the additional layer of carbon neutrality over it, which at the time we were the first in the world. I'm a little bit annoyed. I've just spotted there's a Brazilian fund that's just copied us. I think they're calling it a carbon neutral Bitcoin fund, using exactly the same methodology as we are. But it's nice to be trendsetters there. So, and from a personal perspective, I think it's been a really awesome journey. You go from this traditional world where 3 or 4 years ago I was pretty skeptical, didn't really understand it, in the crypto world, to today you kind of get down into that rabbit hole and you really get to understand the ecosystem. And once you start understanding the ecosystem, you really get to that viewpoint of why it's going to be successful, why it's going to be popular. Because as an investment committee, we needed to kind of come up with a thesis, and we needed to make sure that we were comfortable that cryptocurrency and Bitcoin was going to be a good investment for our customers. And that's a kind of something that we started off kind of thinking, oh, this could be hard. But the more research we did, the easier it got. And I kind of think it's only a matter of time before the rest of the institutional world come to a similar set of thinking as well.
So on that, so first of all, just for viewers, could you just explain how cryptocurrency can be integrated into their fund, and then I'm really keen to understand more about the investment committee and what process you went through to make the decision to include Bitcoin as you have.
Yeah, so for us, so how do you include it? So kind of a bit different from other Kiwisaver providers. Rather than a pretty standard growth, balanced, conservative option, what we've got is we've got 9 individual funds that people can piece together to create their own personalized, bespoke Kiwisaver portfolio. Mm-hmm. On the front of that, we've got a digital advice tool that makes it really easy for people. We ask a few questions, we understand about them, and then we'll build them that portfolio. Up to them up to you whether you want to use that or whether you create something on your own. So it's through that process that if you tell us that you would like to invest in cryptocurrencies, then we will allocate a small portion of your Kiwisaver to that Bitcoin fund. The recommendation and we can talk about this when we get to the investment committee. If you say you want to do it, we will recommend a 3% allocation into your equity portfolio into cryptocurrency, and that's based on a whole lot of modeling that we did, which was the optimal portfolio outcome, and then a maximum of up to 10%. So we're not suggesting people go and put their entire Kiwisaver into cryptocurrency. We're giving them the option to put a bit in there, and following really good portfolio theory as to why we've set those limits as well.
So when at the very beginning of this, when you started thinking about having some sort of cryptocurrency, portion, part of the fund, what was the process you went through, and also why did you end up, settling on Bitcoin versus others, or or an index of others?
So look, we three things that happened for us. So we got a lot of customers asking for it, to be honest. And we like to listen to our customers, and we like to give them what they want. So we had a lot of customers started asking for it, which got us to start exploring it and going there. At the same time, I've been watching the space pretty carefully for a while. We saw that there were a whole lot of really cool institutional products that were coming out that would allow us to own cryptocurrencies, and Bitcoin in particular, in a really safe way. So for us, what the process was, once we made the decision that we wanted to do it, we kind of understood the customer side of it. The first thing for us was getting regulatory sign-off. Kiwisaver is probably the most regulated financial product in New Zealand. And so therefore, very, very quickly, we went to the FMA and asked them their thoughts. They were actually really positive. And I'm not sure they were keen, might be too strong a word, but they were very positive about this as an approach. After that, it was all about doing the work, right? So for us, mentioned our investment committee. Our investment committee's role was four things here. Number one, we needed to understand what we wanted to invest in. And I'll come back to the why we chose Bitcoin in a minute. We needed to understand and make sure that we were confident and comfortable that this was a good decision for our investors, and we weren't kind of just giving them something that was about to blow up. And very clearly, that's why we did the work to understand the use cases and the business cases behind cryptocurrencies. Number three, we did a whole lot of work around portfolio allocations. Where do we think it got too risky for Kiwisaver? And so that's why we've set the upper limit at that 10%. And then where do we think the optimal portfolio allocation would be? And that's that 3% number. Then that's using a whole lot of analysis and volatility and regressions around historical returns to come up with that number as well. And then the fourth thing that our investment committee needed to do was get themselves comfortable on the structure and under which we invested, to make sure that they didn't want me carrying around a set of wallets and a set of keys kind of for $1 million kind of set of Bitcoin, because I might disappear. And how do we do it in a way that gives institutional grade security and structure to make sure that we keep our kind of investors safe? And so that was a great process. I think probably one of the harder ones for us was deciding exactly what to invest in. We purposefully called it the Koura cryptocurrency fund because over time we would like it to be more than Bitcoin. But when we launched this fund, at that point in time, there were two things that drove us to kind of do what we did. One was at the institutional level, there wasn't a huge amount of institutional grade custody solutions that dealt with anything except for Bitcoin. Bitcoin, the bellwether of the industry. And so therefore, you kind of could do Bitcoin. There were a few people at that point in time doing Ethereum, but there weren't anyone else doing the next range of products that sat down, right? So straight away, it was kind of like, cool, we can do Bitcoin, we can do Ethereum, we can't do a huge amount else. Then when we kind of sat there and looked at Ethereum, and we looked at, and we kind of said, because we're very comfortable on Bitcoin, Ethereum, when we did the work there, at that point, there were probably 3 or 4 other protocols that might come out and win in that kind of that layer, that Web3 layer. Kind of looking at Avalanche, looking at Solana, looking at a lot of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so what we kind of took the view at that point of, look, you probably don't want to pick a winner. You probably don't want to pick Ethereum as that winner. If you're going to do that, you're probably going to take 3 or 4 of them, and then go from there. I think that thinking has moved on. And so given with kind of what's happened with Ethereum over the last probably 6 months, we're now of a world where we're going, look, Ethereum is becoming the pretty clear winner in that space, where it's pretty hard to see how that protocol doesn't win. And so we are kind of thinking about, do we bring in Ethereum? But also, we've also had a world of, we're now starting to see the institutional grade custody solutions improve such that we can do a top 4 or 5 fund, which has always been my intention. So watch the space. I think next year we will start to see improvements and changes to that product set as well.
Yeah, that's really exciting. One of the points you made before, I think, is really interesting, is you said that, as an organization, you don't want to be, holding crypto yourselves as individuals, but not really trusting your customers to do it. And that, at the moment, that does feel like where the bulk of the traditional finance industry is. Certainly lots of people I speak to, they're actually users and customers, but don't offer it to their own customers. Do you see that changing in the short term, or is it a longer term thing?
Oh, look, I think, I'll be honest, FTX hasn't helped us. A lot of the credibility and a lot of where we thought the industry was going, that's definitely going to delay things. But look, it's definitely going to change. I look at, so even our journey, right? So in February of this year, or 2022, when I was sitting there talking to institutional custody providers, there were 1 or 2 we could talk to. We couldn't quite get ourselves entirely comfortable on them. Fidelity were the only ones that we could really get ourselves comfortable on. And it's a combination of brand name, insurance, and the tech solution as well.
Sorry, that's just to be clear, that's Fidelity out of the US, not Fidelity, the New Zealand insurance company, right?
True. Yeah. Fidelity, 4th largest asset manager in the world. So that gave us a lot of that comfort. Today, so I've been doing the rounds in the last kind of 6 weeks, kind of figuring out the next steps in this world for us. I've talked to 6 or 7 custody providers. All of them, or most of them, we're really comfortable with. All of them are kind of are regulated in the US, New York trust companies. All have got insurance policies. All have got really, really great processes, and that's all new. And that's something that's only really started up and that's happened over the last 6 months.
Yeah.
We're at the same time, we've also seen some big global institutional players go, cool, we've recognized this is the right space to be, and we need to be there. State Street, the largest asset custodian in the world, have now announced that they will be doing custody for crypto assets. You've had BlackRock do a tie-up with Coinbase. You've had Apollo Global Asset Management do a tie-up with Anchorage. All of this stuff is coming, and trust me, it's not as though these guys, Fidelity were probably the ones that went out there and went early on it, but everyone else, the reason why they're all spending hundreds of millions of dollars building these solutions is because they are being asked to. They're not doing it kind of as a bet. They're all doing it because institutions are turning up saying, we want to invest in this space, but you've got to give us a solution so that we could do it in a safe way and making sure that nothing's going to go wrong. And so, to be honest, that's what does give me confidence that there will be more product coming. It always starts in the institutional space. The institutions, once they get themselves comfortable, once they've figured out ways that they can hold these assets, then that flows down into a whole series of retail products, and hopefully that wins. My personal view, and this is slightly biased because I own one of these businesses, is I think the next big winners in crypto space, in the crypto infrastructure space, are going to be those that can do a really good job at bridging the gap between traditional finance products and kind of crypto. And that means combinations of managed funds. How do we incorporate crypto into traditional products? How do we kind of really mean that, hey, we've got a single, little bit like at the moment, right? If you think about it and go, the financial ecosystem today is made up of stocks, bonds, commodities, derivatives, a whole lot of other things that sit on top of other assets, companies, commodities, etc. To me, I don't quite see why cryptocurrency should be any different, right? We've got these amazing assets, we've got these amazing protocols doing some really cool stuff, but fundamentally, what if we want to turn them into true investments, we need to be able to incorporate them into that traditional infrastructure. And that's the investment, and that's the world that's happening right now. And that's what gets me really excited, because if we get some really big institutional uptake coming, then it's going to be a complete game changer for the whole sector.
I suppose one of the challenges for retail users, how you maintain the kind of accessibility that they've got in the current crypto world, and if you overlay the traditional financial system and structure on top of that, do you end up excluding people? So I think that'll be really interesting to see how that plays out.
And I think, I think the short answer is you can't exclude people, and you shouldn't exclude people. I mean, I think about one of the things that we're doing at the moment, right? We've got some offshore developers that we're using to help us on some work. We pay them in USDT on the Ethereum network. And we do that because it's easy to access. The overarching benefits of doing it are just amazing. I mean, it would cost us many hundreds of dollars to make these transfers using our bank, versus here we're doing it at a pretty small, negligible cost. And so I 100% agree. The retail side of it has to continue. I think the rules and regulations around segregation of assets and some of that stuff, that they need to be introduced. We need to make sure that FTX doesn't happen again. But what I'm talking about is how do we kind of really truly incorporate these into traditional? How do we get cryptocurrency into Kiwisaver, New Zealand, pensions in the UK, NZ Super, ACC? How do we make it so that they have a small allocation to crypto? That's the kind of stuff that I think we are not a million miles away from, and that'll be a massive game changer.
Well, look, I've got some questions that our users have asked. So one of them is, what would be the difference between me joining your carbon neutral crypto fund versus dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin weekly? What would be the difference and the benefits of doing that?
Look, I think, to be honest with you, there isn't a massive difference. I mean, particularly if you look at the Binance platform, where no real minimums, it's pretty easy to do, low transaction costs. And to your point around retail access, that is the beauty, right? Cryptocurrencies, you can put in $10, $20 a week and continue to dollar cost average in. So versus equities, that's a lot harder because you've got quite a bit bigger minimums. So look, to be honest, there is not a big difference. From my sales pitch, the only reason why I think the Kiwisaver is, you can't stop it when you get scared. So when things get scary, often that's the best time to be investing, and you can't stop that because it's your Kiwisaver. And then the second thing is, it is just another part of your portfolio and going through. But I don't think it's a one or the other. I think they can be nice complements. Where I see Kiwisaver fitting in, and particularly with what we're offering, it's for the people that go, I'm not really too sure about. I've kind of been looking at crypto for ages. I'm kind of really interested, really curious on it, but I don't really know how to do it. I don't really know what Binance is. I don't really know how to set up a wallet. I don't know how to do all of these things.
Yeah.
So it's a nice, easy way to give yourself that little bit of kind of crypto exposure. And that's how we think about it. And hopefully, as an industry, and this is part of our role, what that does is that gets people increasingly comfortable with cryptocurrencies. And then it's because that's got to be the step, right? All of our jobs are to get people more into this as a product set, more investors there. And then once we've done that, it's going to enable us to grow the entire ecosystem. So I'd like to see us as a feeder to you, Ben. We get people comfortable through their Kiwisaver, and then they might go and do a little bit more or a little bit different through Binance or a platform like that.
I like the sound of that. So one of the questions we were asked is around, users and people who don't currently understand the technology. How do you give them comfort around, putting some of their retirement savings into this? What's I suppose the educational work that you guys do?
So we've done quite a bit of educational work. We've got a lot of blogs. We've got a lot of work there, a lot of kind of landing pages. At the end of the day, though, to me, the most compelling argument and the most compelling argument that works with a lot of our clients is when you start talking about use cases. People don't realize El Salvador's, on one hand, much maligned by the traditional media for using Bitcoin as a legal tender. By the way, Brazil's just gone and done the same thing. The reason being is because international remittances make up such a mass. So international remittances, so that means foreign workers paying back into their home countries. That makes up such a massive portion of their economies, and on average, it's a 6 to 7% transaction fee. And so, kind of that's why Bitcoin is so important for these economies, because it's a way to get money in. You think about a lot of the NFTs and a lot of that world of what's happening. I mean, I read a great article and stuff earlier this week. Unusual, I know, but and they're talking about how NFT has created ongoing recurring income for artists. It's creating, and that's all built on the Ethereum network. The money transfer thing that I was talking about before, where we're paying developers offshore, we can do that on a weekly basis, small volumes, etc. And that's the bit that people don't understand. There are real use cases. And so that's what I see our job is to educate people on the use cases and why this is real, plus getting them to understand the security around what we are doing and why what we are doing is safe. And if you invest through a Kiwisaver, you're not going to be caught up in a Celsius, a Voyager, or an FTX debacle.
So what reassurance, I suppose, can you give Koura customers that their crypto is safe, their funds are safe?
Yeah. So look, our structure, all of our world is invested through Fidelity. As I said, the 4th largest asset manager in the world. We actually go through an ETF at the moment. That's probably going to change shortly. But the beauty about them as a custodian for us, they are the 4th largest asset manager in the world. They've got a traditional finance business which kind of is worth many tens of billions of dollars, and therefore they're not going to put that at risk. So there's a massive reputational piece for that. The second thing that gets us really comfortable with them is we've kind of gone through that. They're regulated in New York. They have a separate trust company. It's audited on a quarterly basis. All their processes are audited. Their segregation is audited. The accounts are audited. It's very, very visible on everything that happens. And then the third thing that happens is they've also got insurance policies, which mean that anything that's sitting in hot wallets is always insured at all times. And then cold wallets, that's all kind of visible, all segregated. So it's a process that gives us a huge amount of comfort there. And then of course we've got and then on the operational side, you kind of whitelisting accounts, you multiple signatories, and so there's really only one place any kind of crypto of ours can be sent, and that's to a broker. It can't be sent anywhere else. So there's a whole series of protocols in place that mean I think it's really, really hard to kind of see that disappearing and see that being hacked. And that's what more and more of these institutional grade custody providers are providing. And I'll be honest, I really hope that once this technology has been built, refined, kind of made workable, hopefully a lot more of this will filter down into the retail space as well, so that fundamentally it gets a whole lot easier and safer for individual people to be holding crypto.
So, but you mentioned FTX. Obviously, there's a huge amount going on being covered in the news. What are your takes on how that will impact this particular industry going forward?
I think there's probably three things. I mean, there's a big trust factor that we've lost. So look, this is the 4th crypto crash that's happened since Bitcoin started. This one feels a bit worse to me, because this one, for two reasons. One is crypto over the last couple of years had become almost mainstream. I mean, there's something like 10 to 20% of Americans have kind of invested or used crypto already, and those numbers are absolutely astounding. The second part of it is it's been a really elongated crash. So you kind of started at the start of the year, you had May, And then, I mean, the real problem is that we all kind of thought that things were going to get back on the norm. We all thought things were starting to recover. And then FTX was a company that everyone had a huge amount of confidence in and thought, oh, if they're the main sponsor on the Super Bowl ads, they've got Tom Brady, they're in Congress every week. They kind of came with a veneer of respectability. And what the FTX crash has effectively done, unfortunately, is it's done two things. It's meant that the kind of what was supposedly one of the most trusted industry participants has all gone up in a puff of smoke, and there wasn't actually anything there, and they were muppets, to be blunt. And then the second kind of point is that people are going, oh, can this happen? Is this going to happen again? We've seen crypto go for another leg down, and it's just done a huge amount of confidence. So look, it's going to mean that it's going to take longer for confidence to recover. There's no question. But I think the good news is, and people probably, particularly a lot of your users here, will probably debate this. The good news is regulation has to come now. No question, we will get regulatory input. You've already seen the Reserve Bank come out a couple of weeks ago with a new consultation on things, and so hopefully what that means over the next 9 months.
That's the future of money paper you're referring to.
Yeah. Hopefully what that means is over the next 6 to 9 months, we start to get some clarity. And actually, so personally, I'm of the view that regulation is what's going to build trust again. And so I think, those are the two impacts, probably down for longer than we'd hoped. But the really good news is this will bring the advent of regulation. And I think we need to be careful on that regulation. As a podcast I was listening to the other day described it extremely well. We need to make sure people are allowed to invest in cryptocurrencies. They can invest in cryptocurrencies. If they want to go buy a leveraged product or a margin product or a derivative, sure, we should be letting them. But what we've got to make sure doesn't happen is that the investors think they have something, but it turns out they thought they'd bought cheese and they've ended up buying nothing. And that's what regulation needs to do, making sure people get what they think they have.
Gotcha. Rupert, really, really helpful, great conversation, and a really good dive into the future of Kiwisaver schemes. And I think it's interesting to hear a Kiwisaver provider talking about crypto as a great option for the right kind of investor. So, look, thanks for your time. Brings us nicely to the end of this, and I hope everyone watching this has got something out of it. If you've got any further questions for myself or for Rupert, put them in the comments section down below. And obviously, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more AMAs in the future. Thanks, everyone, and thanks, Rupert.
Thanks, all.